Welcome everybody, here's your Strategy Wolf, and welcome back to Strategic Command American Civil War, where it all started, this entire channel. So I'm extra enthusiastic or happy after, it's almost been a year now, that I'm back here, and what you see here is the last screen or from the last turn of my match versus LCanIdestroyer, and here's basically the so long promised and so far not delivered recap, and also an outlook to an upcoming further rematch versus LCanIdestroyer, because the winter is going to be hot. I'll be right explaining to you the recap and go into details. Just let you know, guys, if you're here for the first time or if you haven't seen my let's play of the American Civil War, it was actually the first let's play on this very channel. So if you haven't seen it, it has been a quite interesting match versus my dear friend LCanIdestroyer. She's quite new to Wargaming, so yeah, there has been mistakes and this has not been the most outbuff perfect strategist game, but it has been quite interesting and tough. So yeah, we both had a great time with this very game, and yeah, you can see at least my side on this very channel, so check it out in my playlist if you want to see that. And yeah, if you haven't yet, and if you're new here and you want to see more of that, of course, please leave me a like and a subscription, and do that if you haven't yet, because I'm trying to deliver like 4 videos to you every week, and it's sincerely more motivating and nice if I have these likes, and also your comments and so on is very much welcome, so thank you so much for that. Yeah, let's not waste any further time, and let's go in and let's have a recap. Where we start over here, I'm using actually just my video file from my former Let's Play video, the last one. So you can also, if you want to see that moving and a little bit more of a mobile overview, you can have a look in there. Unfortunately, Strategic Command doesn't allow for a, let's say, last, at least if you like close down the scenario there, I couldn't find any last turn overview or anything where I could go through the statistics with you and so on, which is really sad. I really hope that there's gonna be something like that, or at least in general for every turn. That would be amazing, since here it's one of the few things I want to complain about Strategic Command, since other war games had this already like 10 years ago, I feel like, and yeah, I'm missing this, but alright, let's not complain too much since the games are still wonderful, and I'm more than excited to have a rematch. Which, yeah, for the guys, if you haven't watched yet, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know how this game ended, of course, then go back to my Let's Play and enjoy these 37 videos, I think they are. And also, if you want to know actually some kind of historical pretext towards to the American Civil War, you can also check my video out to that one. It's one of my first ones, so it might appear a little bit insecure, but I guess the information content is still up to date and still should hold all expectations. So anyway, from now on we're gonna spoiler. I've won the first match, as you see, as the Confederates. So when we're gonna play the rematch now, I'm going to play the Union in this time. But before we go there, let's have a look and analyze, or let's talk about what made me, as let's say the outsider, win this very scenario, what can be learned and what can be avoided in the future. So first and foremost, I mean, the main reason, obviously, for this is my experience. Even though I'm not an expert on Strategic Command, of course, I've been playing war games for a long time. So I have, as for her, it was the kind of first match, apart from single player, in this very game. So still highest respect to her and her performance. So I'm pretty sure I profited in a lot of ways from this. Where's the music? Especially to my knowledge and operational, and I know what things could work and so on, you know. So this plays for sure a role. However, it was still, for me at least, even though if you look here from his fighting spirit, in the end it was pretty obvious and pretty clear, I still was pretty tense and tried to play the best of my games until at least 5 or 10 turns before the end. Okay, and I keep on talking, so let's get in. What was the main reasons, or what were the reasons for the Union in this time to lose against me, and to lose against the Confederates? And to analyze that, I would love to structure this conflict into kind of, in our case, 3 kind of time frames: an early phase, a mid phase, and a late phase. Since we are in May 63, of course, it's not, it's more or less the years, but it's also might not not be accurate, you can happy if you correct me and you have details in mind. Maybe with the next one I'm gonna write down certain battles and turns and so on, so I can like have it even closer in mind. This is just from my head and what for me played a big role. So let's jump in and start with the early phase, which basically I consider really the main start, where the first couple of months until maybe autumn of 61, where you can only act with the given troops, where there's more space for maneuverability, and where both sides mainly have brigades and not that many divisions, or definitely not corps out. And starting with this, I feel like there was already some kind of early on success that really helped us a lot in the following or set the course a little bit. And I will talk explicitly about the sack or the capture of Alexandria, combined with a small pocket where I think we managed to take out 2 or 3 brigades without supply of the enemy. Which sounds not so much, but in this early phase where you have limited resources, this was kind of important, since it forced also the enemy to put new reinforcements here and so forth. And from my point of view, it allowed us to, even now we've crossed the Potomac over here, to get with our brigades here in this very convenient and comfortable defensive position, where we managed to basically man the Potomac line with brigades. And at this point I didn't even intend to cross it, whilst the enemy was forced to secure its main front over here and had to, in the outer line also had to place more units over here. So this, I think, in the end, allowed us this very comfortable and convenient defensive position to use our offensive forces at other parts, or have free up some resources for smaller offenses or other actions at other points. At the same time, by costing the enemy and costed him the initiative in this area. So yeah, I felt like at the beginning I was putting initiative up here and I didn't feel under pressure. There was then counterattacks, no worries, and I think they were necessary but not really decisive ones. So maybe the enemy should have mastered a little more decisive one to maybe take Harper's Ferry and push here to Shenandoah, or again to retake Alexandria early on. I don't know, hard to speculate in the aftermath, but this I consider one of the, this earliest little success here. Alexandria had definitely some consequences for later on. And another one in the beginning, or like for me probably one of the main mistakes or errors that the enemy has made. I mean, this can be definitely explained through to inexperience a little bit, and maybe not reading the events correctly, because I've replayed it and they explicitly warn you from doing this. But the enemy's evacuation of Fort Monroe was basically an absolute present for us. And since you remember, there is this event, or this rule in the game that would, by a certain chance, increase the likability of European nations joining the war on the Confederate side, but I think a lot, and also enriches or increases or helps out with the fighting spirit if the enemies are out of a 10 hex range from Richmond. And I think this is more or less this, like a circle like this, or even up to Alexandria. I don't think so, but at least this here, the river next to Fredericksburg and Culpeper. So this is easily to achieve, but there's Fort Monroe, which is always in this range and is such a pain basically for the CSA, which can be only attacked by this thin line, and the Union has an HQ and a brigade over here, and this hex is fortified. It's not, now the fortifications are gone since we took it, but this is fortified, so basically in the beginning you have no way to really take Fort Monroe without massive reinforcements, a good general, and further resources. So if you remember correctly, we saved up in the early phase, I think 300 or 400 MPPs just to buy basically the siege artillery over here, which we didn't even research technologically and so on, which I basically just ordered to have a better chance to take Fort Monroe out before they evacuated anyways. So let's say, so these units were even able to move up here. Let's say I would have occupied this artillery plus 3 divisions here for moving down here, taking it, getting back minimum 5, 6, 7 turns, so an entire army or group, let's say, has been taken out from other positions. So this for me this was probably the major mistake early on the enemy has made, and yeah, I'll try to avoid that. So a little spoiler, and even if the enemy sneaks into our recap here, this won't be done by me. So yeah, this was decisive, but I mean in the early game, so yeah. Nevertheless, the game also hasn't been decided after that, so I think these were the main... Oh yeah, sorry, I'm missing something else. There was another thing in the early phase to see that. Let's jump maybe to the Midwest over here. Yeah, here to Missouri, where also the enemy, I think, was a little bit... Also, this is, for sure, this is not that decisive, but it's also connected to probably the inexperience. Because here in the beginning, Jefferson City, you have to take it as the Union, and you get a couple of units here, mostly brigades and some regiments, but here the Jefferson City State Guard is also just a regiment, as far as I know. And if you take Jefferson City, Missouri surrenders, all the taxes are being taken over, and if you have units up here, for example, that be cut off supply totally, since all the lines and streets in the rear would surrender to the Union. So a pretty dangerous situation for the CSA. In our case, we had kind of we profited from her inexperience and really defended Jefferson City for way longer, I think, than normally is possible or necessary. I was careful with the supply lines and didn't push up too far, but through the time that this took, in the end I was able to secure these supply lines with cavalry or something like this, and also get, for example, units here into Fort Davidson with a defense high fortress value, that over here in Lebanon and so on, so we could delay any further push down by the Union by far, and always kept up with a little, just small and easy units. We kept up a high defensive position, so that Arkansas down there, like the mines over here, were never really in danger, or even the Mississippi. So we secured these southern swamps or forests in Missouri for us for a very long time, which gave us for sure an operational tactical advantage for the let's say mid time of the conflict. Where we are now, because I feel like this was the main phase in early on. Technological details and so on, I don't want to analyze because I don't have the data available, to be honest. So sorry guys, this is also always up to speculation and how it in the end turns out. We just analyzed the military consequences, and let's go to the mid part of the conflict, probably like 1862 mostly, in which we saw Kentucky joining the war, and where you can prepare somehow. And I feel like, of course, I would have loved to muster more forces actually for our personal Kentucky invasion. If you remember, the enemy also has the target to take Nashville, Tennessee, basically, and here's also a lot of fighting spirit objectives in this area. What we managed to do, or my plan was to push in here and basically take this perimeter to get some kind of defensive position while building these fortresses in the background to defend, as you see, our efforts to defend Nashville, to keep them as far away from Nashville as possible. I think this worked way better than expected, also due to our Alexandria offensive and so on, our success in the beginning in the east, since the enemy had to reinforce there and get these losses back. And I feel like this enabled me, or even though I was not really happy with the amount of troops I had, but I had some capable divisions over here that enabled me to push up, and there was no super solid defense of Kentucky from the enemy. And so I don't know, and we managed to establish ourselves here, and even the enemy, of course, tried to challenge us here and there, but in the end we kept like the operational tactical advantage and were beating them over in smaller encounters, and in the end managed to push them up here. But this is probably already like late game phase of our game. It's hard to tell for me right now, but I'm pretty sure that this early on success at Potomac enabled us some more success over here. And then Nashville was never under threat, and even here we could keep up some initiative, some offensive. Combined with I think our Cairo raid, for example, where the enemy where we could take Cairo, which was not defended for a cup with a swift cavalry attack from this side of the Mississippi, which was a fighting spirit objective, and then supply for depot for the forces here. So Cairo is extremely important, in my opinion, for any kind of offensive actually from the Union into Tennessee or down the Mississippi. So yeah, this was an individual mistake that we could punish very quickly because we had our cavalry here at hand. So this benefited everything over here in the end too. But yeah, this Kentucky success over here, yeah, was surprisingly effective in the end, and is definitely one of the reasons why also our entire strategy worked out pretty well. Two other things, because in the midst game, I would call it, sure, there were battles over here in the east, but I tried mainly from my side defensive, and I just was trying to hold the line. In 62 I was like favoring this front as well as two others that I wanted to show for one sec. There we have at 10-18. Yeah, our more and more increasing, let's say, in Indian or native or cavalry warfare we started in the Oklahomas. So after a while, and when we could take out somehow here the capitals of the Oklahoma native tribes down here, we managed to get, no, they were actually on our side, sorry, but we managed to take out some cavalry or native allies of the Union and invested extra here, and yeah, we, as you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the end, and even more up there. Cavalry units, yeah, here 7, 8. We had such a high number of cavalry that was probably even, yeah, tactically also due to the technology better than Union ones, where we managed to overwhelm their forces, and we used here the space and the, yeah, limited supply route to encircle over and over some smaller detachments of the enemy and actually drive them back north, even up to the Missouri River, and in the end cutting even off here the supply lines from the west at Fort Leavenworth and even further up where the supplies from Kansas and the west come in. Yeah, this one for me was extremely fun, and I feel like here with kind of bad, or not bad, but inferior units and cheap units, I achieved kind of a huge effect and occupied so many units, and the enemy didn't really find a way to counter that, I feel like. And even up here, then suddenly we see divisions up here that we never used here on this front, to be honest. So the enemy had to invest and brought more because things were under threat, like Jefferson City and Fort Leavenworth, but it came in too late, and it probably was the wrong unit because they're too slow and these planes can be easily outflanked and so on. So just from I feel like here we acted very, very cost efficiently, took the initiative, costed the enemy a lot of income or MPPs and units to send here that he couldn't use effectively at other points. So despite the direct super effect, I feel like this part of the war was also very important for us. And another front that also worked out very nicely for us here at 341 is the front of New Mexico, where we had the first skirmishes over here, and I think we were able to push them up and get actually here a defensive perimeter here at Paraje or Santa Barbara in this area to block any units from Colorado. At the same time, we were able to wait for the Californian reinforcements that came through the Apache Pass, that we managed to, yeah, encircle here and basically annihilate this entire army group here, which, yeah, of course, you know they are coming, so you can prepare for this, but in the end the timing worked out also perfectly well for me, so I was able to just crush them and then gather our troops and then, yeah, push up. I mean, we didn't take all up here, but at least yeah, develop another threat and even push up here instead of losing our mines here in New Mexico, which can also easily happen if the Colorado forces and the Appalachian forces crush you here. You can be the one on the defensive. So yeah, another little scene or scenario part, a theater where that turned out to our advantage, and timing and, yeah, operations went really perfectly hand in hand. So yeah, another one. So basically you see all fronts in the mid part were kind of working out for us, even though it was always tense. But as you see, there was mostly, I mean, this time there was something going on, attacks from the enemy on the Potomac, but never really sincere. And so basically I always kept the initiative and meant the enemy to deploy troops and run after my movements, which is, when this happens all the time, I feel like the enemy, the Union, this is how you can get the Union down in this scenario. If the Union manages to get the initiative in more front and you have to run after it, at some point I feel like the Union would outproduce you. Coming to the last part, so after these mid parts to basically, like, let's say the end of 62 and in the spring and winter of 63, there is obviously the main front has to be noticed is again the east, where we have to go back and where the war was won in the end for us. And we should not forget the Potomac River invasion. So by the end, as I told you, during the year 62, the enemy was trying to push here and also had to reinforce, of course, bring new units. And I think they were successful at once, as Alexandria was retaken. And to some extent, I have to there were several attempts and we were under pressure all the time, but we could hold the line mostly at the Potomac. And then until there was the point in late 62, early 63, when the enemy tried to use her marine infantry to basically land them here next to Tappahannock. And to basically flank us here and cut the supply lines, I guess, whilst pushing here on our front at Alexandria. So basically a kind of a pincer maneuver trying to break through here. I still think the idea is not terrible if performed correctly. And a lot of things went really bad in this case for the enemy, since I think at this point I was also kind of preparing for potential offensives from our side over the Potomac, or strengthening at least the front. So when this happened, I had, I think, 6 divisions or 5 divisions like put in here in place that were marching up more or less, or coming in, and that could of course redirected in this area to kind of kick them out from this landing naval invasion. And the problem for these naval invasions is, of course, there's no real supply of. Here's only one river tile. I think some supply came in, but as long as you don't have a real harbor, your units will lose organization and have not the power to really break through. And I could contain them. So the main threat was coming here from Washington, from the north, and they managed actually to take Alexandria. I think even for one moment of one turn there was a connection from one of the landing naval units here or something like this, and here they took this. So a little bit of a breakthrough for a short time, but I think that's cost like four divisions or something that we could crush, also under high losses for our side, while in the end we could retake this area and push them back, while also, and this was, I think, then the basically the death sentence to the Union, that when it was clear that this operation doesn't work out as it should, the enemy kept on pushing with brutal aggressive aggression, which probably had to be done at this point, at some point, because the enemy's fighting spirit was going down and down and down, so it was important. But yeah, it was just like here, this war of attrition at this point, where I almost had the same industrial income, I think. And also, of course, the losses for the enemy go heavily on the fighting spirit, and we had prepared positions under our best generals here. I think this was the wrong idea, because we both lost terribly a lot of MPPs and units and fighting spirit in these battles, but I think the casualties have been way higher for the Union, and at this point it was not possible for her to replace them. And they came a little bit one after another. They didn't come with a lot of prepared groups that all struck at once. It was just this ongoing war of attrition, and she was trying to grind me down, that they can push here through, but they didn't manage to. So it was super costly, and I think took all potential offensive capabilities from the Union, while we had still some time to maneuver and attack in Oklahoma and Kentucky. So was very tricky, but yeah, a lot of stuff going on. So this is, from my point of view, was the decisive. I mean, things were looking good already, quite good for me at this point, so the enemy had to do stuff, but this nailed kind of the coffin. Actually, I don't know if you can say this in English, but put the nail into the coffin, while also taking off any other threat, let's say naval threat. You know, and this is the last point from the let's actually just close down the late phase and let's get back to the overall like analysis of this conflict. So that the enemy had this naval supremacy, of course, during all the time. That's a point that I haven't even talked about, but there was no naval invasion. The only thing they did was kind of doing some convoy raiding, but I feel like this could have been done also stronger because it didn't lose too much MPPs through raiding. And also the enemy attacked some forts here and there and even took out some. But that's it. There was no, like, I wasn't forced to deviate troops to some harbors or anywhere to really protect them. And even more, if you see the monitor down here, with our fleet and being concept and the enemy's inexperience for sure. Also, we managed to take out here and there a gunship quite easily and diminish their numbers, and still having 2 monitors in this time of the game around in this area in the harbors. So they were able to attack any gunship or potential weak unit of and retreat to our harbors. So our hit and run tactics on the sea also worked out quite well. While there was no invasion, nothing in New Orleans or anywhere, because there's plenty of opportunities. So it was pretty. And when the landing started here, I also knew that because when you see 4 naval, of course you can land with normal divisions, but I'd use naval infantry, and if they all pop up here and we can destroy them, this danger, this imminent threat of invasion anywhere is basically cut out for a while, and yeah, which is very appeasing and it's like very calming you down as a CSA player. All right, let's have a quick cut because I'm gonna jump into a fresh game with the Union. So we can actually check out the map a little bit, since this is my recap of this game. Please let me know if you can remember. And before, sorry guys, by just talking about it, we haven't talked about Washington, since after this basically screen we took Washington again. And of course there was, like, within this fighting there was the moment where we actually were able to take Washington. So this is also a result still of the early Alexandria success, since being here at the Potomac all the time. And then slowly building up a threat, and then you see a weakness, you can take Washington in a while. So it's kind of also very important, I feel like, for the Union to actually keep you away from this position. So this threat and this of a quick attack, I mean, they pushed us out a turn later, so we just held it for a turn or two in the first time we attacked Washington. But yeah, this imminent threat, or this threat on this position over here, is very, very dangerous for the Union. And also that you can push over the Potomac, I mean, but this can happen, I guess. Also, historically speaking, it happened, so and it was very costly for us too, but this can be contained, but losing Washington is really hard. Sorry. Now back to, this was already the end of the recap with these last words about Washington. So let me know what you think and what you remember. Also, if there's anything I've forgotten or any questions on the on the game. So yeah, I hope this is kind of a recap that helps you remember and get in. Yeah, I'm sure I could have done with this nice arrows and so on as in these like yearly recaps I did. I will do this probably again in the newer match, but actually since I don't have these maps available for screenshots, I would have had to go through thousands of video material, and to be honest I couldn't find the time for this, so I hope you really also enjoyed this kind of recap. Yeah, we'll take a short cut. And I'll be right back now with a new game, with a single-player game of the Union, so we can have a little bit of an outlook of the upcoming game. So, see you in a second. Alright everybody, I'm back, and I'm here as you see me right now in the starting screen of a single player match as the Union. And just that you know how it starts, we will do this again. This is just a sample right now, so we can talk a little bit more easy on or freely on the things we plan and we have in mind. So yeah, there's some sale of stockpile. You sure, as you know, remember the CSA can basically take the decision of selling everything or looking for a European partner. Gonna be quite interesting to see how the enemy decides on that. Yeah, here these standard procedures in the beginning. Riots in Baltimore, sure. And the volunteers for Lincoln. Okay, and a blockade. Yes, so this is basically what happens in the first one. I guess we still have to answer to events. Yes, the strategy guide and so on. I've read this, I know them, that's fine. Yeah, we've got 200 MPPs in the beginning extra to prepare, and then we go. Then in the beginning you can decide either to move into Missouri or try to keep it up and do it diplomatically. It influences Kentucky a little bit and so forth. Yeah, I haven't fully decided on if I'm gonna do this or not. I tend to go the historical way and move in, since it's quite easy, and I think I don't see a lot of upside potential from not doing it, but we will see. And here you see the forces that I've mentioned before, where the enemy failed a little bit in taking down Jefferson City, which is, if you don't know it that well, the game can be tricky. All right, and then you've got here the decision where you can think about forts on the Indian territory, small influences here on these if there's units or not. Also not that relevant, but I also think about this when we start to play versus LCanIdestroyer. Good. Maybe here this is the, as you see, this is the starting setup, so maybe a good reminder from you of looking at the end of the war so far. What is the main key for us in our game? What are we going to do? I'm not going to do all my strategy by now, but just I think the main lessons and the main features that I want to take away from the recap in the end. So I'm going to keep it short and about technology and so forth. I will not talk this video on diplomacy. I find two key points that I want to take away and that I will pay extra attention on. Initiative and I'd say sea power. Since operational skill, I hopefully have a little bit more than the enemy in her first game anyway, so this, I hope I can avoid some unnecessary losses. And let's focus on the other two. So first of all, let's start with the Navy because it's easier to talk about. The enemy, I feel like has really not paid too much attention on the Navy, which I can understand since it's more complicated, especially if you're new to the game and you want to focus on other things. But from my point of view, I think we have the stronger Navy, and I probably invest a little bit into it, so the enemy has no chance in overcoming that. And I don't want to just have it and block the enemy. I will want to make use of it. So, which means a strong blockade of all these routes needs to be established. And we'll find matters and we'll see how we can make it tougher and tougher. Trying to use like every ship that we buy or have to run that is not being used is kind of a waste. So it will be interesting. I'll also try to take out fortifications as long as they're easy to take out and so forth. So just keeping pressure up, also like scaring the enemy of potential invasions all alongside the coast. And and not only scaring the enemy of potential invasions I feel like is also a thing that we should definitely keep in mind or try maybe. So either, of course, the historical New Orleans invasion down here in the south of the Mississippi, but also here mobile would be, for example, here the Alabama River. Actually, just this summer, just this little side info, I traveled, did a little road trip from Miami up here to, I think this should be Dakota Beach, and then we drove over here passing mobile to New Orleans. So I've been in the area so recently, and I might be extra attracted to attack. We shall see. And I've actually been also here in Fort Zachary Taylor in the Florida Key, in the most western, the most southern, U.S. fort or island. So it's super cool. I got some Civil War vibes, which means I'm extra motivated. Just a little detour here. So yeah. Sorry, back from the distractions. I will try to perform some landing. May it be here or also on the East Coast, somewhere here in Virginia, or even lower in Georgia. Carolinas or Georgia. We shall see. But also, I think also a river fleet could be quite interesting and important to have, since also landings here on the Mississippi and actions from this Mississippi on can be very interesting. So I definitely want to invest and utilize our Navy, I guess. How, where, and so on, we shall see. This is the future, so it's hard to tell. The same goes for diplomacy and research. We'll follow some research. We'll talk in the first turns when I have a clear strategy and when I start to do that. Diplomacy, I'll basically act probably more of reactive and see if the enemy invests in diplomacy, if in case the enemy really gets somewhere really high with the European powers. Of course, I have to counter that too, but let's hope we can avoid this in the first place. And what wanted to talk actively about, once again, sorry, is the initiative thing. So initiative, it's easier to say I want to keep the initiative, means in the end for me that I'll play carefully. I want to keep my units together, but where I have them together and where I see room to exploit it and get in better positions, I will also move forward and use like little attacks to have the initiative and distract the enemy. So of course here Jefferson City is going to be a no-brainer if I attack to Missouri, and then we shall see what happens down here. Here of course, as long as Kentucky is neutral, we have to build up some forces for that we can prevent something I did like in our last game when I moved in from Tennessee. So here it has to be our target to keep the enemy push him as quickly down to the Tennessee River, if not pushing here over, or like keeping here this peninsula and yeah, having some pressure down here to Memphis or from Nashville from the west even. However, yeah, I have to try to get units out, and this is probably the main thing for us. Maybe I'll lower my research in the beginning a bit to at least make sure I have enough units out there just to position them. And by positioning them, I mean, in the beginning especially, both sides have mainly brigades until the first divisions arrive. So the offensive potential is limited, and just by blocking off certain points and occupying them, I think you can get a good position early on. So yeah, we shall see. Of course, also getting here Alexandria will be key, and I hope I can hold the Manassas in comparison to the enemy. And maybe Harper's Ferry is also, I feel like, a very relevant point. Just the railway plus the controlling the river here, and it's basically the entrance here down to the Shenandoah Valley, where we'll find these mines here in the Virginia. So yeah, getting over the Potomac, unlike the enemy in our match, and getting some units here in let's say stable, optimistic forward position, not with the target of getting to Fredericksburg right away, but to keeping here in a strategically good position. That shall be key for us, and I think that is how we could manage to keep up some initiative, or at least having initiative at certain spots. I mean, the enemy will have initiatives too, but it's about to limit them and to not run after them. And yeah, how this plays out on the entire scale, we shall see. But these are the main takeaways or plans from the recap and my learnings, what I will try to avoid while I try to do. Of course, if you want to let me know, give me some hints and so on. I don't know from when on I'll tell the enemy that she's allowed to have a look at this one. I feel like this is not super secret information. Yeah, my further plans I haven't made. I mean, it's in the end, most event-wise, most decisions lie with the CSA. Now in the aftermath, I'm a little bit... maybe I should have not played it that conservatively. Here, maybe I'll try with our events to be a little bit, yeah, to compensate for the advantage I got in terms of experience. So on, maybe I'll compensate by taking wilder decisions. They're not necessarily better, but worse, but they can have wilder implications with the events to spice things up. Thinking about Garibaldi and so forth. But yeah, it's also not done yet, so we shall see. Yeah, please let me know what you think, your ideas, please put them down here, and if the enemy reads them, it might be dumb, it's fair, it's an open game. Manual guides, strategy guides are out there everywhere. Unfortunately, in this one, the enemy is again not doing a YouTube, so you have just to live with my side. I hope with future strategy commands this might change at some point, but we will see. And yeah, I hope you're going to be excited and follow this one. And yeah, maybe you'll also see how I got more experience in this very year. And then I'm really excited to start off and have this rematch on this channel. So thanks for watching already. And once again, yeah, if you haven't yet, leave me a like and a subscription so you won't miss the future episodes where you really see some battles and gameplay. And I really hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your like. Bye. See you next time. Your Strategy Wolf.